Hello and good afternoon. It's time for the dealershipnews.com podcast, where we learn about the who's happening in the automotive industry. I'm Kelly Kleiman, your master podcaster, and today we have a real special guest. He might not think so, but I do. If you haven't seen his YouTube videos or haven't had him into your dealership to train your sales folks, you're in the wrong business. He's old school, which I prefer to call gold school, because he knows how to communicate with people and get them to sell themselves to the customer, who then buys the car. I'm particularly entertained watching him work, knowing full well that the potential customer is as good as sold when he breaks out his notepad and pen. Folks, I give you Steve Richards. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Kelly, my pleasure.
Boy, I got through that thing somehow. Don't ask me how. Folks, we've been having all sorts of fun technical problems, so we're glad to have him on in a relatively timely fashion. So, Steve, our office watched a bunch of your training videos. We all agree that there's sort of a naturally entertaining Bob Uecker-like quality to your flow that complements some incredible agility at the deal desk. Explain to us a little bit about your background, how you ended up being the hardest working sales trainer on earth. Have you always loved the auto industry, or did you just kind of fall into it like so many of us do?
Kelly, I can promise you I did not grow up wanting to be a car salesman. That's for sure. In 1978, I had just finished graduate school. I'd gone through a number of interviews with companies like IBM, Carnation, Sun Life, and a number of others. And the answer was always no, 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 no. So I'm sitting at a bar one day, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who had also just finished graduate school, and he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Not going so well. How about you?" He said, "Not so well." And a fellow overheard us, a fellow that we played rugby with. And he pulled me aside and said, "Why don't you come and see me tomorrow?" And I said, "Okay." I said, "What do you do?" He goes, "I'll explain it all tomorrow." So I went over to his office. All I knew about him was he drove a Porsche and a Monte Carlo, and at that time I thought he was some sort of god. It turns out that he interviews me, and he talks enthusiastically about what he does. I can't figure it out, but he's passionate about it. He turns me on to his boss, and this guy is also crazy passionate about what he's doing. They send me to Chicago. I go to a big office building. I meet a bunch of other people who are passionate about what they're doing, and I barely have a clue. But here's what happens. On a Friday night, I finish a bartending shift. On Sunday, I fly to Chicago. 2 weeks later, I'm inside an automobile dealership being billed as a finance and insurance specialist and the guy that will turn the store around. I went to work initially for a guy by the name of Pat Ryan, who is literally the father of finance and insurance. And I got inside the dealership, and it just clicked. It turns out I had a passion for the business. All I did was what I was trained to do, and it seemed to work just fine. So 39 years later, here I am, still in the car business, still loving it. And a post note to that is my father raised hell when I got the job. He said, "I didn't pay for your education for you to be in the car business." But before he died, he declared the retail car business the best kept secret in the country. Both my brothers ended up in the business, and both of them have done extraordinarily well. So we are car guys now, but we didn't mean to be.
That's a remarkable story. I'm going to ask you who your mentor in the sales world was and who you drew your inspiration from. But first, let's find out a little bit more about what you do for fun. Do you fish, hunt, chase grandkids, watch baseball, restore old jukeboxes?
I play golf. I try to play as much as I can, which is probably 4 or 5 times a month. I've got 2 dogs. I'm a dog lover. I spend a lot of time with my dogs and my wife. I study the profession of selling. And when I say I study the profession of selling, I study very few people inside the automobile business. I study people who really have to work at selling. Look, the automobile is arguably the most popular product in the history of mankind. Almost everybody wants one, and almost everybody needs one. But I've taken a lot of insurance selling courses. You think about life insurance. It's $500 a month. What do you get for that? Nothing unless you're dead. So the skills that a lot of other sales professionals have are much more advanced than most automotive selling skills. So I study selling. I'm writing a book. why you hate buying cars and why I hate selling them. And between all those things, it keeps me pretty doggone busy.
Speaking of being busy, you're currently the VP of Motor Trend Certified. It's Easy Care is the name of the company.
It's Motor Trend certified by Easy Care.
Okay, by Easy Care.
Motor Trend doesn't endorse products as a rule, but they named Easy Care's products, and by the way, their products are extended service contracts, limited warranties, gap coverage, most of the traditional finance and insurance products.
Mm-hmm.
Motor Trend named their products as recommended best buys, and from that grew the idea to offer certification opportunities to automobile dealers for their off-brand vehicles, meaning a Honda store can certify Honda, the Chevrolet store can certify Chevrolet, the Toyota store can certify Toyotas, but if they've got off-brands on their lots, they can't certify them.
True.
Motor Trend Certified is the only nationally recognized certification for the dealer's off-brand vehicles.
Oh, that's remarkable. So there is no competitor. I was going to ask you, actually, no. It gives the dealer a distinct advantage over their competitors who are carrying off brands. I could see how you.
Right, and almost all of them do. Okay, you're not going to find a Honda store with all Hondas on the used car lot.
Right.
They're going to have, they take trade-ins from all different makes.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into your history of sales training, because it's quite remarkable. You have 900 plus videos. I've only gone through about 80 of them. Probably not quite that many, but they're all fun. I'm like Steve Richards Jr. at this point. I don't sell cars, but I feel like I could. How many dealerships have you trained, and what's your favorite city to visit on business?
I've been in over 700 stores.
Wow.
I have trained for every Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram store, every Mazda store, every Kia store, every Chevrolet store in the USA, either via live seminars or DVDs. I work with some of the best organizations in the country right now, and I'm so thankful for that. For example, Galpin out in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working with them for 3 years. I've worked for the Minnesota Automobile Dealers Association, the Orange County Automobile Dealer Association, just to name a few. I've been blessed with terrific opportunities. And Easy Care and Motor Trend I've been doing for the last 3 years, and they've opened countless doors for me. And Kelly, if I might, let me talk about the YouTube channel just for a second, because I never expected it to do what it's doing. I initially started posting videos so the students in my seminars, if they were so inclined, could, study the video. This month, the last 30 days, that YouTube channel has 256,000 views. And most of those views are from consumers, believe it or not.
Oh, I totally believe it. I mean, I'm not a sale. Well, I guess I do somewhat sell a little bit over here, but I'm definitely a consumer, and it's. I think people like it because it's entertaining. I mean, I think the people who don't like it are afraid to get you in the room with them because they're just looky-loos. you put the pedal to the metal on those folks.
I get some brutal comments. I had a guy the other day say, "I hope you die of pancreatic cancer." My response was, "Well, that's very specific."
They don't understand that you are an old school, dyed-in-the-wool professional salesman. To me, it's an honor to talk to you and to know that there's still folks out there like you, and which brings to mind the next question, which is comparing today's average car salesman with yesterday's, and how has reliance on technology helped as well as hindered the process of bringing a prospect in and making them a lifelong customer?
Well, today's automobile sales professional has got to be light years better than yesterday's. They have to be better communicators. They have to be able to build a bond of trust faster. They have to be likable, and they need to know how to use the technology. For the past 10 years, consumers have been using technology to beat up the car dealer, if you will. And it's just as of late that it's dawned on the sales teams that, they can use technology to justify their prices. They can use technology to help the customer make a better buying decision. But today's salespeople, they need to be smarter. They need to be better educated. They need to be technologically savvy. And they need to be better human beings than they were when I started. I can tell you that the sales training that I watched in the late 70s, early 80s, they basically would make people convicted felons today.
Yeah, we went into a dealership on Van Nuys Boulevard, and we had a fella piss my wife off to the point where she took her sweater off and threw it at him. So
I absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe it. Most of the stores are using sales processes that have their roots in the 1950s, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. What are some of the practices, bad habits, responses to objections, and closing lines that make you cringe the most? Speaking of bad salesmen.
Oh boy. Hearing things like, what do we need to do to earn your business today? Are you here for the big sale or the inventory reduction sale? The crazy, stupid lines that weren't even good, 30 years ago, but people are still teaching them. Salespeople are still using them. And like I said, the sales process literally hasn't changed in the 40 years I've been in the business, yet the way consumers are buying new cars and trucks and used vehicles has changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the traditional sales process, all it does is elongate the sale and make people mad. It's completely nuts. The sales processes were built to revolve around the sales management team, not revolve around the customer. And every business in the world has figured out that if you don't have a customer-centric sales process, you're light years behind the curve, and most retailers are.
Yeah, I've spent the 3 and 4 hours in a dealer. We actually, we buy our vehicle down there in Marina Del Rey. We have a Toyota. I have a Toyota and a VW. And we have Toyota dealers up by us, but we bypass them simply because we had a fairly decent experience with the fellas down in the marina. But I'll call them and say, I want to be in there for 45 minutes. What do you need from me? I'll sign everything I need to sign. We've already agreed on the price. Still, I go down there 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, and they just haven't quite figured it out. It's not consumer friendly at all.
No, and the crazy thing about it, Kelly, is people want to buy faster. The dealerships, it would behoove them to help the customer buy faster, but they won't change the process. It's the most. It's a poster child for, this is the way we've always done it. That's why we're doing it this way.
Yeah.
There's no other rhyme or reason to it.
Well, when you walk into a dealer, then what's the checklist you go through? You want to make that dealership a better dealership, and I'm sure that there's all sorts of issues that they have. My curiosity is, what does your checklist look like?
Well, the first thing I do is I get to know the management team. Have they been trained to manage or lead? And in most cases, they haven't. The retail sales managers in automobile dealerships get less training than anybody else in that store. The technicians get the most. The salespeople probably get the second most. But the key to making a process work is going to be management. I want to know if they study their profession. I want to know if they're aware it's the 21st century. In most cases, they're the weakest links in the store. And I help the sales team get better without helping management first get better. Most are adept at managing a deal, but not growing and developing salespeople. And like I said, is the process customer-centric or is it desk manager-centric? And all too often, the vast majority of the time, the process revolves around management. Management doesn't have the money. The consumer has the money.
Yeah. Curious as to what kind of look. I've been at some sales training seminars, and there's always somebody who gives pushback in the audience. There's always like the top salesman, in the store. He always has some kind of pushback. He thinks he's all that and then some. What are the typical kinds of salesmen that you meet in your training sessions? And do you find that most of them are all ears, or do you get challenged by those know-it-alls?
Well, first of all, you have to remember who the audience is. Most of the people in the audience, A, didn't mean to end up selling cars. B, they've been to miserable training session after miserable training session. So the vast majority are very, very skeptical. About, 16 or 17 years ago, I was doing work for one of the factories, and the courses I was teaching were part of their certification process, so people had to come. I mean, they were not volunteers. They were absolute prisoners. So what I did was I said, look, I recognize you don't like being here. I recognize most sales training you've been through is a waste of your time. Here's the deal I'll make with you. If you'll give me till 10:30, which is our first break, if you don't think I'm different, if you don't think I can help you make a better living at the break, you are free to go. You're signed in. You'll get your certification credit. That I promise you. All I ask is you come up to me and you tell me that I suck and you're leaving. I did 55 seminars. One person out of 55 seminars, there was probably 50 to 75 people in each seminar. One person ever left.
And I think that person probably didn't last at that dealership very much longer.
No, but I don't blame. I expect them to be skeptical. I expect pushback. I mean, look, the automobile salesperson is a downtrodden human being. I mean, they're abused by management. They're abused by 300 million Americans. They didn't mean to be where they are, yeah. And most of them were just decent human beings trying to make a living. And it's my job to help them make that living. It's my job to help them see that there is a future in the business. It's my job to help them enjoy the business because it is rewarding. It's just not a good way to make money. It's a great way to create a life if you're in the right store and if you know how to handle people. And I quit teaching people how to sell cars about 5 or 6 years ago, Kelly. Mm-hmm. Now I teach them, and I want them to adopt the attitude that they are there to help people buy. Neither you or I want to get sold, but we both love to buy. Yeah. Make it easy on us.
Yeah, that is true. So my question would be, because new cars are far less profitable than they used to be, how important is the add-on at the end of the sale? And is this an area that car dealers need to focus a lot more on? And do you help that process and and do you put together those pitches and help salesmen make more money presenting add-ons and extended warranties, service agreements, et cetera, et cetera?
It's the difference between profitability and being in the red. It's more important than ever. According to Cox Automotive, and they are the who said it of the highest magnitude in the automotive industry, the average gross margin on a new vehicle now is 2.9%. That is the gross margin. That's before anybody turns on a light, pays the first person. I mean, the margins on the sale of vehicles, both new and used, are at historical lows. So yes, the finance and insurance department, the accessory department, both of those departments are more important than ever. And that's basically what Easy Care, our company, focuses on.
Right.
I'm one of the few guys that focuses on the front end. Our entire company is built around helping the automobile dealer develop in the right manner back-end profitability, and that's through the sale of the add-on products and benefits.
Well, I'm sure when you walk in the door and you get on the phone or you do a webinar that these dealers are listening, with both ears wide open. You bring a lot of very interesting, a lot of great experience, and obviously you know what you're doing. And they need profitability. I mean, there's no question about that. We monitor literally every dealership sales as far as calendar month sales are concerned, And here in California alone, May and June, if you compare May and June 18 with May and June 17, the numbers were unbelievably down. They picked up a little bit in July, although from what I hear overall, sales are down in July. They're actually up for most major markets. And I can, not all by that much, but a little bit over last year's July. And being able to put a little profitability at the back end, gosh, I would think that would be the most important thing that they're all looking to do at this point.
Make no mistake.
Yeah. Share with us some funny anecdotes, based on your experiences working with probably thousands of salesmen all over the country. What are some of the two or three, or give me one really, really humorous story? Anecdote, characters, whatever you've met. I'm all ears.
Some years ago, I was working specifically with a dealership finance and insurance office, and I placed an individual up there, a young fellow who we had just trained, and he was gung ho. And after he'd been there about 3 weeks, the dealer called him into his office and said, "Bob, we really like you. You're a breath of fresh air, and here's what I want to do for you. My brother owns a furniture store. I want you to go down there, and I want you to pick out anything that you want. We want you to be around here for a long time. We want to make sure you and your wife are comfortable. Go down there, pick out I'm talking any furniture you want." So he goes down to the Dealer Brothers furniture store, and he picks out about $5,000 worth of furniture. They deliver it to his apartment, and he couldn't be happier until he gets his check on Friday. And he discovers that the dealer wasn't giving him any furniture. He was selling him the furniture, and his net check for that Friday was $75. They'd taken $1,000 out of his check for the furniture that he thought he had been given.
Oh, my God.
So he walks into the dealer's office and said, "Mr. So-and-so, you told me that you were giving me the furniture." He goes, "Well, Bob, that's not realistic. Who in the devil would give you $5,000 worth of furniture?" He said, "Well, I thought you were." He goes, "Absolutely not." He goes, "We're going to take $1,000 a week out of your check until it's paid for."
I've never heard of that, ever.
The kid ended up hiring someone to take all the furniture out. They put it in the parking lot. He called the dealer and said, "A, I quit, and B, the furniture's in the parking lot, and it's about to rain. You better have your brother come and pick it up."
That is crazy. What city was that in?
That was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. If you could sell anything other than autos, what would it be, Steve?
Oh, Kelly, that's an easy question. I would sell eternal life. I'd be a televangelist. Everybody wants it, and it's a cash business, and I've got the knack for speaking. I absolutely would be an evangelist.
You would be a damn good one at that. Last question before we part ways, although we're not going to, because I'll be contacting you by email shortly. What kind of car do you drive and why?
Well, I've driven almost everything. I've gone through 3 midlife crises. There were Porsches, Jaguars, Mercedes-Benzes, Lexuses. But as I matured, my brother runs a large Honda store. Mm-hmm. And by the way, his name is Pete Richards, and he's one of my idols.
Okay.
And he's a younger brother, but he's helped me a ton in the business. So we've been driving Hondas for the last 10 or 12 years. I drive SUVs because I need to carry my dogs and my golf clubs. Mm-hmm. But I'm driving right now in Infiniti because one of my longtime clients is an Infiniti dealer, and he's stuck with me through thick and thin, so I decided it was probably time to buy a vehicle from him.
Yeah, repay the favor.
The Honda, I drive an Infiniti, and it's an SUV.
Well, you can't go wrong with those Japanese cars. I actually have a Prius. Very happy with it. I've driven Hondas, the whole thing. Steve, it's been great making your acquaintance and having a little chat with you. Again, I'll be in touch with you at some point here very soon, folks. This is Kelly, dealershipnews.com. This is our podcast. We were honored to be joined by Steve Richards, What a fun guy and what an incredible sales training guru he truly is. 40 years of experience in the industry. You got to check out his videos. They're on YouTube, and hopefully soon they'll be on dealershipnews.com. Until we speak again, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Kelly, thank you.
You bet. Take care, Steve. I'll give you a buzz. Bye-bye.